Yo, 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 what's happening? What's happening? This is your boy Matt Montague back on Dying to See Me. I am blessed to be here today with one of my all-time favorite fighters of MMA, Mr. Nick Diaz. Thank you so much, man, for coming on here. I said I'd do a short one with you because I'm a humongous fan. What year was it that you really started to train for MMA? I know you were with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, but was that like 11, 12 years old?
Yeah, I was probably 12.
12ish.
Yeah, I was. Maybe even, yeah, you're right, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because I was watching UFCs. My aunt on my dad's side, she had a genre of video collection.
Yeah.
And it had consisted of UFC 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And Jean-Claude Van Damme and Steven Seagal.
Right.
And I think the movie Beaches.
Yeah.
And
so that's when you really were like, fuck it, dude, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, Die Hard.
Fuck yeah.
And yeah, sure, I did karate. My uncle, he was like a seventh dan, Aikido and
yeah,
judo.
So martial arts was part of the fucking fam, right?
It was on my dad's side. My dad did fencing and stuff like that, and then and so I did the Aikido, and I was I'm watching the UFC, so I wanted to
sure
be a little more
active,
offensive, or
yeah.
I wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Right. Yeah, you want to jump around,
yeah,
do flying kicks and shit.
Kickboxer and Lionheart, and I wanted to do that, and so I started when I turned 16. I watched Royce Gracie and was like, I found somewhere to do jiu-jitsu, and the people who had talent, they were coming from Caesar Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Pleasant Hill.
Yeah.
The guys that were teaching and had technique and trained with the gi on, and so I bought a gi and I did my first jiu-jitsu competition. It was real intense too. I was a white belt, and I went in there and I met David Terrell and Gil Castillo and Steve Heath and Caesar Gracie and this guy Macaco from Brazil was coming in with these other Brazilian black belts, and they didn't speak English, and it was really foreign to me because I never even heard being 15 years old, I had never heard anybody speak Portuguese like that before.
Right.
Like I was like, what the heck? It's scary.
Yeah.
Especially in competition, they're yelling,
Yeah. Loud as fuck too.
Loud
right?
as fuck, yeah. And yeah, and you have David, he was kind of the wrestler, but he was Caesar's black belt. I don't think he was a black belt at the time, but he was going up against black belts, and it was a pretty intense tournament that I went to. So I think it was my first jiu-jitsu competition.
Right.
And then so from there I just traveled to do competition. I did Capital City grappling tournament, and there was a bunch of different martial artists there that were there to do a grappling tournament. And Boss Rutan was there. And they had judo. They were given 5 points for judo throws, like high amplitude. So
right.
if you fucking chuck somebody,
right,
you get 5 points. So people were really going for throws.
And they're like, everything they wanted to do were the 5 points.
It was a cool tournament because it had different rules than like what you see now. It was
right.
cool to see tournaments like that just had like different settings for like rules and stuff. And,
yeah.
And I did really well in that thing, man. I beat these guys. I was just a skinny 16-year-old, and I was beating these big, guys who lifted
burly
weights.
Guys, yeah.
So many guys were like on steroids
back then,
swole, and
yeah.
I was a skinny kid, and I was beating people.
When you started training with like Jake Shields and Gilbert Melendez and your brother, and really formed, like, you guys were really the first fucking team. If it makes sense, of MMA, man. You guys were the pioneers, And And when you guys were in different organizations, I just always loved the way you guys brothered up and fucking always supported everybody, no matter if it was, you know, like you said, a white belt that was going to their first tournament. I've seen you and your brother and Jake at different places, and like, fuck, man, like you guys really support, man. It's commendable. I really like that.
Yeah, we were a pretty solid group.
Yeah, really dope group, man. So when you came over and you started to really, really like, fuck, man, this is my thing. This is what I want to do. Did you ever think that, you know, you would be where you're like looked at as one of the pioneers of MMA?
I had no idea what I was in for.
Right.
I had no idea what I was in for. It was really rough being a kid back then. That's all I had. And then I got really good at it. And it wasn't until after I fought George St. Pierre that it got really thrown off. You know, I started going. I'd already been to other countries to compete, but then once when I went to Canada, and I got kind of screwed around out there, and I got, you know, I missed a press conference, and then I had to fight BJ. Things were really getting stressful, and then so I took a break after I fought Condit, I think, and I took a break, and then I came back and I fought Silva. So before I fought Silva, I was racing around, running around, you know, really depressed. Went through like a really solid breakup, another one. You know, like the fights were kind of like the glue that would hold these long relationships together that I would find myself in.
Sure.
And then I would just be a complete disaster after getting through with the fight and then going through a breakup, because without the stability of a fight camp, I couldn't maintain a relationship.
Sure.
I was just, you know, off the chain.
Right.
And as I should have been, because, you know, it was always, even fight camps weren't a stable environment for holding a normal, like, relationship with anybody, not just, you know, so it was, you know, the only thing I was holding together was my teammates and stuff like that, and I really did well with that. I pulled us all together. I was the one that pulled us all together, and that's why you see what you see when you see a group of guys or a team of guys that did really well. And so, you know, after I took this break and I found somebody, I met this guy Frank, you know, and he was, you know, Housewives, Beverly Hills, and he was kind of like on Bravo TV and stuff like that. And so he took me to Dallas to meet somebody who would manage me for to make a comeback. And so we found that, and then I made a solid comeback. I made a pretty good comeback. I fell short on a week or two out of training. I hurt my ankle, and then so I was a week out of training for that camp. I think I could have really won that fight if I didn't screw off in the first 2 weeks of training camp.
Yeah.
But it just shit happens. And then, so, really bad. So, but I pulled that off. And then after the fight, immediately I was just, you know, in Wonderland and depressed and getting drowned by fans. And this is kind of how I got to where I am now.
Sure. I don't think people understand either too, like, right? Fans are great to have, right? Obviously, but you know, you need that fucking time, man, to your...
I was drowned by, and then, you know, I found groups of friends here in this city or in that city to kind of hang out with.
Right.
I didn't want to go home, because home just reminded me of like...
Yeah, bullshit.
Things that were kind of going well, but then went on the rocks and fell apart. And so I didn't want to go back there.
Right.
And so, I stayed, you know, in Vegas and LA. And then I went back home finally during pandemic. And I was noticing I was having a lot of issues, you know, it's just stress. And then after that fight, I didn't go back into a training camp, so I didn't rehab, you know.
Sure.
Like, I didn't know I had a neck injury. I think all of us fighters have like neck injuries and stuff, but I went down on a bike and tweaked my neck, and I didn't rehab it. I just was like, oh, you know, I shook it off. Like, man, shook it off and just went and started looking for, the next thing.
Sure.
I didn't plan on coming back to fighting for a while, so I was taking a break, and I was looking for a CBD thing, and I pulled a tequila thing together. All just a bunch of just bullshit. Like,
Sure.
I really should have just focused on my health and athleticism.
Yeah.
As I normally would, but I was just scattered and being pulled this way and that way. So I finally went back home during pandemic because I didn't, who knew if the world was ending, right? So
Right.
I went home to see my family, and kind of tried to copy the model of like where I was hanging out, in nice places,
Sure.
and stuff like this. And at my house and like at home, it didn't work well.
Right.
Stockton's ghetto, so all of a sudden I had like, it was just a mess. I was like, you know what, all right, that's it, everybody out of here. And I was like, I'm just sitting there by myself after being around all these people in nice places, and then coming back home and remembering all this stuff how I became a fighter when I was a kid, and just my whole life came right back to me. And I was like, oh my God, what the heck? I need to train again and fight again. And I said, because I wasn't even thinking about it. I was thinking about, making some business deals work and
Sure.
But then I'm like, dude, I'm a fighter. I don't know what I was thinking, so I went into a training camp, and I kind of got backed into it too, because I was in between management. It wasn't like when I went and found a group to work with and organize my situation. I went back and forth between the people I was working with and some of the old people I was working with during this training camp, and my trainers. And so I couldn't amount to a level of athleticism. I needed to be competitive, and I knew that going into the fight. And then I was going into this fight like, oh man, I really got it coming. So I didn't really go in there like to win.
Yeah.
I just needed to get that first fight out. I hadn't fought for a long time.
Right.
And I'd never fought under those conditions. But so afterwards I was like, what the hell do I do? I'm like, what's going on? I'm all messed up. I had a really messed up camp, and so I started doing all sorts of different therapies and and this and that, trying to pull myself back together so I can stay competitive for another couple years. So I'm making a lot of progress.
Good.
I'm making a lot more progress, and
Fuck yeah.
And
do you want to fight again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to fight again.
Is it MMA, or do you want to just do boxing?
Oh, you know what? Like, just
fuck it, whatever comes.
Yeah, whatever makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Right. I'm
Good
just
for
doing a lot of rehabs and therapies, and trying not to. I haven't overtrained my whole life, and it was just. But you know what? I was also really durable and well put together.
Yeah.
And then like I said, after that Silva fight, I didn't go back and do a lot of rehabilitation. I just trashed myself pretty good. After that fight, we just got dragged this way and that way. I don't mean trash myself, but moving around, trying to do trying to do different line of work is just like, you're like, okay, you're a fighter, you train every day and you work on fitness and you focus on your body, and then all of a sudden when I'm focused on money conversation, it really takes you out of your element. And then going back in, I was like, man, what the hell have I been doing? And so now I focus on just fighting, and getting to where I can be most optimal.
Sure. Are you still doing I know you were doing like triathlons and swimming and cycling.
Yeah, so that's the thing too. I went back home, and then it was a mess during like all my stuff got robbed. I tried to go pick up the pieces where I left off, and it was like my whole house burned down or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? So I left town, and I go back there now. It's just not the same, so.
Sure.
I prefer training in nicer, cleaner facilities and stuff like that now.
Yeah.
And they've got out here, they've got a lot of different, they got a lot of different gyms, but they got a lot of different physical therapists, and they have, they have the UFC PI, they have everything there for you.
Right.
So yeah, I've been doing most most of my stuff out here right now.
Fuck yeah. So, do you have a fight scheduled? Or are you just going to try to rehab the neck?
In my mind, I always have a fight scheduled.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. You never know what'll happen.
Right.
So,
but I mean, if they called you and said, hey man, 8 weeks short camp, obviously you got a neck issue that you want to get fixed, right? And get yourself right back into shape.
It depends on, it all depends.
I mean, everything, right?
Yeah, it all depends on who I might be fighting. And
right.
What's on the table. And I'm just trying to get my head in the right spot. And because for a long time I was like, who am I going to fight? Like, it made sense to go back and I had that one coming with Robbie Lawler, so I made sense to go and fight him again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of made a little bit of sense.
And I think MMA fans wanted to see that fucking fight, right? That was the.
I don't know.
That was the fight.
I don't know. That's not something I wanted to do, but it was something that I was like, all right,
fuck it.
I needed to go and fight.
Sure.
And I wasn't. I didn't have anybody else to fight.
Yeah.
There wasn't nothing else out there.
Is there somebody right now that you'd like to fight? I mean,
I always want the biggest fights.
Just fucking
I want the biggest
right?
fights. So the closest thing to get in the biggest fight is if not the biggest. If I can't get a world title shot, then I'd try to take the closest thing to it.
Yeah,
so.
maybe the next best. But other than that, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, unless we can make some sense out of it. But
right.
I don't know. I'm still trying to explore and figure out. The plan is to find happiness and good things.
Yeah. Well, I
so
hope I hope that you can get there, man, because your headspace is very important. It's very important. You're not going to win no fucking fights, and you're not going to be able to do shit without the right headspace. I had anxiety for fucking so many years, bad, I thought I was dying type shit. I got shot multiple times.
I got stabbed and shot at. So I didn't, I forgot all of that stuff until I went home.
Yeah.
I went home and I was like, oh man, I'm going through it.
I got shot when I was 18 and I never had no problems. And then I got 30 something. I'm like, fuck, everything freaked me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Once I got back into the right headspace though, shit was good.
I've been in nice places for so long. I went back home and I was like, I almost got killed here my whole life, and I feel like that again now. I need to get the hell out of here. And so I got out of there as quick as I can. I still got people trying to get me to come back, and I'm like, you know what? I'd rather not.
Sure.
Go back there.
Fuck that. Right.
I feel safer here where there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah. Right.
Nice people walking around.
Yeah.
People are at their best.
Right.
It's just like, man, I've worked hard enough, I think, to be surrounded by nice people and not go back there and see all these, because I went back home and I was like, I saw my old friends and stuff and I was like, dang.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, and then when I left, I was like, oh man, I messed up too.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's been a
fucking journey, right?
Yeah, I feel like a battle axe, just an old just
yeah. So
and I'm like, dude, come on, this is a joke, right? Help me get back to optimal,
right?
So usually I would just train through and go hard, but I'm like, I can do that for a day, last time I went home and before my bikes got stolen and stuff, before all my shit got stolen, I went home, I rode 100 miles. I just got out there 50 miles out. I was like, I'm gonna ride another 50 miles, or 25 out. I was like, I'm just gonna ride 50, and then I knew once I got out there, I was going to have to ride back.
Right. So you're like, fuck it.
Because I did this ride. I used to do this ride. I would do 20 or 30 miles out, and I'd get 60 on the way back. And and I just took it further. And then I came back, and just because it felt so good therapy, I really needed it. I hadn't been home for a long time. And then at the end of that ride, man, I was pedaling around 3 miles an hour, and I went up on my front wheel and just crashed face first, and I was like, oh,
fuck yourself all up.
Yeah, so I shook it off, and like I said, I took off out of town and didn't think nothing of it.
Sure.
But I was like, dude, I'm messed up. When I went back to train for the Robbie Lawler fight.
Yeah.
this last fight, I was like, that's right. I fell on my face. Oh my God, that's right. I got jumped at that nightclub.
Right.
Oh, that's right. I was goofing around with Joe Schilling and he punched me in my face and split my lip open.
Right.
Fuck. Guys, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
He gets real pumped up. You know?
Yeah. It gets all fired up, right?
Gets all fired up.
It's like,
all my friends are like that. You know, I'm like, yo, hey, whew, it's your first time. It's your first time. Right. Yeah. So I'm like, I didn't, you know, once I started getting back in shape, I'm like, geez, why am I having such a hard time? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I got fucking mangled. And I used to get mangled in training, but I felt great. I was in good shape for it.
Sure.
But these were times where like, we'd finally be on like a feel good, you know? I'd be hanging out, you know, you're hanging out with your friends and all that stuff. And then shit just gets wild. And everybody's like, you know, it's like everybody was kung fu fighting all of a sudden, like in a hotel room. Yeah. And I'm like, and so when I went back, like I said, when I went back to start training again, I was like, dude, why was I doing all my workouts? Like, why was I doing all these ghetto workouts? Right. Like, you know, I should have got back and been more consistent with training.
The UFC PI, man, over there, they got some fucking really dope doctors. It's really good training over there. Do you like that environment better? You have to, right?
I like it, but I like it. It's just hard for me. I'm really not the most organized type of person.
Gotcha.
You know, I used to have it my way. I used to teach, you know, because there's a bunch of guys in the room, you know, and it's like, who's going to teach? Or you're going to teach? No, I'm going to teach because,
sure,
you know, it's, you know, I've done more teaching in more hours, so I'm going to do all the teaching, you know what I mean? That way we can get things to move forward. Like,
sure,
you know, I'm going to do it like this.
Right.
You know, like this, okay? You guys get it?
Right.
You know what I mean? We'll put it together and we'll do it like this, okay? Cool. That way, you know, it's not just I'm sitting there frustrated with like, why don't, you know, oh, that's nice, but how about we all do this?
Right.
Okay, it's a lot better. Isn't that better? Yeah, yeah, it's better. I'm like, okay, I thought so. Good, okay.
Right.
Good, happy to speed things up, you know, so I teach and then I'd have my way with things and then I would train. And that would really warm me up into the day, and then I would, even talking about how I would do it, kind of, you know, I'm like, okay, like that was like, it's kind of like a warm up for me, right? And then I'd finish my workouts, you know, because it's hard to get into the gym and just start hammering it, you know. You get in and then we figure out what we want to do and then how to do it, and then we do it. And then after that, now we're all warmed up.
Right.
So you're all amped up now, and then you train, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's tough now going into the gym, going right to these specific workouts and having people coach me and stuff. And like, I'm like, you know what? It's frustrating me, and a lot of it's wasting my time because I already know all these things.
Sure.
You know, oh, we need to do this, you should do that. And I'm like, I'm sitting here wasting my time talking to people about stuff I already know about.
Right.
And so a lot of my time is being wasted on stuff like that. So when it comes to like the UFC PI, I don't really like to hang out there every day, you know. And if I go in there, I want to get into a routine of going there and stuff. But there's a lot of other, you know, sports-specific places and things and stuff out here, and then in other cities too. So I'm still kind of like trying to find a little bit more of a foundation, you know, to hang out. The idea was before, when I was a little younger, I was gonna open a gym in LA before this COVID thing, the pandemic kind of wrecked all that. I was gonna open a gym there and then teach there and stay there and then make a freaking full-on comeback.
Sure,
but
right.
That whole thing fell through. And I went home, and then when I went home, I really, you know, I ran into all these problems, you know. Everybody was having problems. And then, you know, all my shit got robbed, and I was like, well, damn, how am I gonna do a training camp, like, to do a fight when all my stuff's stolen? And then now I'm like, how am I gonna do? So I was like, I better just go back to, like, you know, be around people I know, because all the people I know from back home, like, they're all, I just couldn't really pick up where I left off there. They all kind of let my, you know, nobody watched my stuff. Everybody just, all my shit got stolen. And,
fucking free for all. Right?
Yeah, and then I kind of showed everybody how to live their life, and now they're living it. And I'm like, okay, that's nice. You guys are all, you know, everybody's doing really well. I don't want to come in here and disrupt that habitat.
Sure.
You know, I don't want to do that. You know,
Yeah.
I want to start my own thing, and I don't want to mess with anybody. They're all happy now, and I'm glad I helped them to where that they're
Sure.
good. So yeah, I'm just still trying to find a little more foundation and something that works for me, so that I can try to come back and fight some more. Or
Yeah. Well, I'm excited, man, to see you, man. It's been a real pleasure having you on here. If you want the fans to and everybody to know where to get a hold of you on Instagram, you want to let them know?
Oh yeah, I'm Nick Diaz 29 on Instagram.
The 209. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming on again. This is Matt from Dying to See Me. Look for all episodes coming out every Wednesday. You can find me on every single social media platform at Dying to See Me. Thanks a lot, Nick, man. We appreciate it. Excited to see you come back. We'll see you guys next time.